What's going on, gardeners? It's Sunday, October 30th, and it is a pleasant fall day here on the southeastern coast of North Carolina. And on today's video, I'm going to share with you what just may be the most comprehensive guide to growing persimmons on the entire internet. Now, there is a tremendous amount of information in this video, and it took a lot of research to make. So if you need help navigating, expand the video description and click on the table of contents so you can navigate to where you need to go. If you're new to the channel, please consider subscribing and hitting the bell to receive new video notifications, and check out our Amazon storefront and spread shop in the video description for a list of the gardening products I use and awesome custom designed apparel and other gear. Your support is greatly appreciated. Most people have never heard of a persimmon, and that's a shame because they are not only one of the easiest fruit trees you'll ever grow, but they are incredibly delicious. Persimmon trees are part of the genus Diospyros, which translates loosely into the fruit of the gods. When ripe, persimmon fruits have a texture of jelly with a flavor of honey, cinnamon, and spice. Truly heavenly. If this sounds good to you, you must grow them because they are almost impossible to find in grocery stores because they cannot be shipped once they're ripe. When selecting a persimmon tree to grow, there are two types of persimmon fruits: astringent fruits and non-astringent fruits. Most persimmon varieties have astringent fruits. The reason most persimmons are astringent is because they contain soluble tannins within the fruit. If you've ever had dry red wine, it's the tannin content that leads your mouth to have that dry, puckering feel. However, the tannin content in red wine is fairly low, and that mouthfeel adds to the wine drinking experience. With unripe astringent persimmons, the tannin content is so high, they're basically inedible. If you bite into an unripe astringent persimmon, it would be a very unpleasant experience that would suck the moisture out of your mouth like taking a deep breath into a jar of rubbing alcohol. This tannin content fades as the fruit ripens. A properly ripened astringent persimmon fruit feels like a bag of Jell-O or like a very soft, bordering on overripe tomato. This is the moment you've been waiting for because this fruit is going to blow your mind. This is the fruit of the gods, and it's called so for a reason. Because they're so soft and jelly-like, they cannot be shipped. So the only way you can eat these persimmon fruits is to grow it yourself. Usually, persimmon ripening coincides with the first few frosts. In fact, it's said the first couple of frosts actually speed up the ripening process. That is another thing that makes persimmon trees great. They are the ultimate season extender because they ripen after frost, which keeps your harvest going from your garden well into the fall, maybe even the winter. The second type of persimmon fruits are non-astringent varieties. Non-astringent persimmons have a low tannin content. While you can't eat them green because there will still be tannins present, you can eat them after they've turned orange but are still firm and crisp like an apple. For this reason, you will occasionally see non-astringent persimmons sold in grocery stores briefly in the late fall, since they can be shipped when very firm. However, they are very expensive and border on nearly $1 a piece. Now, it's important to note that while you can eat a non-astringent persimmon when they're firm like an apple, that is not the only way to eat them. At that firm stage, they are edible and sweet, but they are still underripe. Non-astringent persimmons will continue to soften and ripen like an astringent persimmon will, and as they soften, they will get even sweeter. However, most varieties won't reach the jelly-like consistency of an astringent persimmon, and most lack the amazing fruit quality that the astringent persimmon varieties can have. So why would anybody buy a non-astringent persimmon? Harvest extension. I have both a non-astringent and astringent variety because the non-astringent varieties allow early harvests and food storage. While astringent fruit is superior, it can't be easily stored and the shelf life is very brief. Non-astringent fruits can store for weeks or months, so they are great for medium-term food storage. It's worth it to have both types because then you'll be able to eat these incredible fruits for weeks or months throughout the year. Now that you understand the difference in fruits, there are three different types of persimmon trees: the American persimmon, the Asian persimmon, and the Asian American hybrids that have been crossed to incorporate the best of both worlds of both species. Keep in mind throughout this video that Asian and American persimmon trees do not pollinate each other. American persimmons are native to the eastern half of the United States, making them a bulletproof addition to most landscapes in the U.S. Have you ever heard of the term sugar plum? A sugar plum is actually an American persimmon. They have virtually no pest and disease pressure when grown in the United States, so once they establish, the only problems you'll have to worry about are the squirrels, deer, and birds stealing your harvest before you get them. American persimmons are hardy from zones 4 through 9, so even folks in incredibly cold climates can grow them. American persimmon trees have not been in cultivation very long, and as a result, they closely resemble their wild fruit. American persimmon varieties are all astringent, so you need to wait for all of them to turn very soft before eating, which usually happens after a few hard frosts. The fruits are smaller, generally only about 1 to 2 inches in diameter. Wild American persimmon trees can get very large, with some reaching the 30 to 80 foot tall range, so keep that in mind if you're going to grow an American persimmon seedling tree. Wild American persimmon trees are either male or female. If you're growing a seedling tree, to set fruit, you will need both a male tree as a pollinizer and a female tree, because only the female trees flower and fruit. For this reason, I generally discourage growing American persimmon seedlings and sticking to some of the newly developed grafted varieties. While the breeding of the American persimmon is in its relative infancy, there are breeding programs that claim that they have bred self-fertile American persimmon cultivars of smaller stature. So, I will overlay a list of apparently self-fertile persimmon variety selections. Self-fertile American persimmons are a game changer for potential cultivation for backyard growers, and I suggest anyone interested in American persimmon trees research these cultivars for self-fertility and overall size and stature. While American persimmon trees are generally large, they can be managed via pruning. Annual pruning practices can keep them to a reasonable size, though you will want to give them enough room because they could develop a potentially large root system over time. Some persimmon connoisseurs say that American persimmons have the strongest flavors and are worth the effort. Asian persimmons, on the other hand, have been in cultivation for generations, and as a result, they have a wide variety of cultivars available. Asian persimmons are much smaller in stature. The largest varieties grow to be about 20 to 30 feet tall when left unmanaged, while the smallest varieties only grow to be about 10 to 12 feet. And with annual pruning, you can easily maintain any Asian persimmon variety at 12 feet tall or less, making them wonderful additions to most backyards. Asian persimmon trees are not as cold hardy as the American persimmon trees, but they are still widely adaptable. Most Asian persimmon varieties are hardy to zones 7 through 10. When growing Asian persimmons in North America, you should only be purchasing grafted trees that have been grafted onto American persimmon Diospyros virginiana rootstock, since they are a native rootstock to the United States and they are adapted to our conditions. Despite being small in stature, Asian persimmon trees bear much larger fruit, ranging anywhere from 2 to 5 inches in diameter. Some Asian persimmon varieties can have fruits as large as beefsteak tomatoes. Asian persimmon trees are available in both astringent and non-astringent varieties. In addition, nearly all varieties of Asian persimmons are self-fertile. Most varieties of Asian persimmons are seedless when unpollinated. However, there are varieties of Asian persimmon trees with male flowers, and if you allow pollination, the formerly seedless varieties will develop seeds. So why would anybody do this? Well, that's because pollination has some distinct benefits. First off, the Japanese pollinate their persimmons in cultivation because the fruit quality improves despite the addition of the seeds. The size and flavor increases with pollination. And second, some Asian persimmons change completely once pollinated. That's because there are 4 different types of Asian persimmons. There is pollination constant non-astringent, pollination constant astringent, pollination variant non-astringent, and pollination variant astringent. Whoa, what does that all mean? While both pollination constant and pollination variant fruits develop seeds when pollinated, pollination constant varieties produce the same consistency and color whether pollinated or not. Pollination variant varieties change color and consistency when pollinated. pollination variant fruits, the flesh turns from light orange to brown when pollinated. Here is a list of Asian persimmon varieties classified by astringency and pollination type. If you want to pollinate your fruit, you will want to make sure you pair pollination variant varieties that have male flowers and are noted by nurseries to be good pollinators. For example, two of the most common pairings are planting a chocolate persimmon tree next to a coffee cake persimmon tree, since they are pollinizer varieties. These varieties, when pollinated, are said to produce incredible fruit, but not so much when they're unpollinated. And the third type of persimmon tree is the Asian American hybrid persimmon. These varieties have been bred to have the smaller stature of the Asian persimmon while having the cold hardiness of the American persimmon. If you want to grow an Asian persimmon tree in a colder zone, these are your best bet. While there are several varieties of Asian American hybrid persimmons on the internet, the two most notable is Nikita's Gift and Rosianka. They have the stature and fruit very similar to that of an astringent Asian persimmon, meaning the fruits are 2 to 3 inches in diameter and they grow on a smaller semi-dwarf tree, but they are cold hardy all the way to zone 5, making it possible to grow an Asian-esque persimmon in very chilly winters. In fact, my younger brother just bought his first house in zone 6, New Jersey, and I bought him a Nikita's Gift persimmon tree for his backyard, which we planted when I visited him a few weeks ago. Nikita's Gift is probably the perfect tree for those in zones 5 and 6 that want to grow a smaller stature, astringent persimmon, and since it only grows to be 10 to 12 feet tall, it's really the perfect self-fertile fruit tree for many backyards in general. Planting a persimmon tree is easy. Simply dig a planting hole twice the size of the root ball and fill the bottom of the hole with a couple inches of compost. Add a few handfuls of organic fertilizer, somewhere around a 555 NPK, to the planting hole. Optionally, dust the bottom of the hole with bone meal, which is fantastic for root development. Mix the fertilizers evenly into the planting hole, then place the root ball so the top of the root ball is slightly elevated above the soil line by about 2 inches. Add more compost around the planting hole and firmly tamp the compost and soil around the root ball so it's locked into place. Once you compress the root ball and compost, the root ball will sink slightly, so that's why we always want to position the root ball a little high in the beginning. We never want to bury our trees deeply because it discourages surface root formation. Elevating the root ball slightly high encourages easy root growth through a light, loamy compost and mulch layer. Also, be sure to never bury the graft of a grafted fruit tree. Top dress the soil with a little more fertilizer and bone meal and rake the native soil and compost around the root ball. Finally, add a natural mulch such as hardwood bark, pine bark, wood chips, pine straw, or wheat straw. Do not use a dyed mulch, which is usually ground up old lumber and pallets dyed to look like real wood. Rake the mulch around the base of the tree in a consistent 2 to 3 inch deep layer. Then water it in. I like to add 2 tablespoons of fish emulsion to my 1.5 gallon watering can when watering the trees in after I transplant because fish emulsion is great at preventing transplant shock. Be sure to keep the tree moist for the first few weeks while it establishes. I usually water every other day the first 2 weeks, then scale back to once a week for the next month until the tree establishes. It's best to plant most trees in early spring or fall when sun stress is lower. But what is truly astounding is that tree planting footage that I just showed you was this tree right here, my Ichikikejiro non-astringent persimmon. And I planted that back on June 27th, 2021. And today is October 30th, 2022. So it has been almost 16 months to the date since I planted that tree. That's how long I've been holding on to this planting footage just to make this video right here. And as you can see, not only did the tree more than triple in size, but it is already loaded up with fruit, and one of them is ripe and ready for harvest already in only 16 months. That goes to show you how amazingly fast these grafted, well-adapted cultivars can fruit for you. But just as a point of comparison, because you never know exactly what you're going to get in life, this tree right here is my Giambo astringent Asian persimmon tree. And I planted this a full year earlier than my non-astringent persimmon tree. So this one is actually on its second full year in ground and its third season overall. And I have not yet gotten to pick any fruit off of this tree. Now, it did flower for me this year for the first time, but it dropped all of the flowers once it formed little baby fruits. They all fell to the ground. So I may not get any fruit off of it until next year. And that's not to say that I did anything wrong. It's that fruit trees are just like people. Some are literally early bloomers and some are late bloomers. So even if you take two grafted fruit trees of the same size and the same variety and you plant them both right next to each other, one just may decide to fruit before the other. So don't be discouraged if it takes 2 or 3 years to get fruit off of a grafted fruit tree. That is also pretty early, pretty normal, and an overall great investment. Now, back to my Ichikike Jiro non-astringent persimmon. This persimmon right here is ripe, and you know it is ripe because when you press on it, it feels like a really soft tomato, and it has just the right amount of give. It feels just wonderful. And like I said, these non-astringent persimmons, you can eat them when they are firm like an apple if you wish, but in my opinion, the flavor is vastly superior when you go ahead and you let them soften some. So we are going to simply twist and pick that off right there. And I have to say, this is some of the most excited I've ever been to harvest a fruit out of my yard. Now, I've purchased the Fuyu type non-astringent persimmons from Trader Joe's and other supermarkets in the fall for years, but they never get to this level of softness because they pick them rock hard and ship them, and they just can't get this soft on the counter. To have one that is basically ripened on the tree is really just, it's just a miracle to me, and I can't wait to try this. So let's cut into this. Wow. Oh, it is just dripping juice everywhere. Look at that right there. Dripping juice all over the place. I don't think well, I know I haven't. I've never seen a persimmon like this because I've never had them straight out of the yard, straight out of my garden like this. So this right here, it goes to show you that even a non-astringent variety can get to the point where it's like straight jello, straight jelly. That just looks incredible to me right there. So I can't wait to try this on camera. It is so juicy. Oh, that is just ridiculous. That is one of the most ridiculous tasting things I've ever had. This is like eating, it's like eating jello, but it tastes like, almost like a cross between honey, a melon, some type of light berry, and it just has like these spicy notes to it, almost like a clove or a nutmeggy type flavor. You know, that's up there with as good as any fig that I've ever had from my garden. My camera loves to autofocus on my face, so it's hard to get it to focus when your face is in the frame. So I just want to get this jelly-like persimmon just dripping juice like crazy. And this even could have sat on the tree for probably another week or so and gotten even softer and sweeter and juicier. Honestly, it's an absolute joke how good this is. It is ridiculous that anything that comes off of a tree could be this good. And I've said that about some of the figs that I've grown in the past. Like, how can nature create something better than what humans can create in a bakery, no matter how hard they try? But it really is the case. And these persimmons are even more consistent in flavor than figs. They're always a 100% winner when you let them get juicy like this. I probably have to turn this off because many of you probably don't like watching me eat this mess. So after watching that taste test, have you gone out and bought your first persimmon tree yet? No? What are you waiting for? This video has everything that you need to make good selections and plant your persimmon tree for success. Now, if you're just worried about where to buy a persimmon tree, well, I bought my big Giambo persimmon tree, the astringent one, from Just Fruits and Exotics. That was the first one I ever bought. But I also bought 3 persimmon trees from Plant Me Green. I got the one for my brother from Plant Me Green, one for my neighbor from Plant Me Green, and also my non-astringent persimmon came from there. But if you're looking for more reputable sources, you can get them from Stark Brothers, from Raintree, from Logis, from Burnt Ridge, from One Green World. They are all reputable suppliers that have a good selection of persimmons. So check out some of those websites as well. Find one that you want that's a good value and order one, because the sooner you get it in ground, the sooner you will have those incredible fruits. And that right there just may be the most comprehensive guide on the entire internet for growing and planting persimmon trees. There's a ton of information in this video, so bookmark it and come back to it. Everything is timestamped in the video description description to help you find the exact point that you need to get to. I hope after this, everybody that sees this video has at least one of their own persimmon trees. So everybody, I sure hope you found this video helpful. If you did, please make sure to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and ring that notification bell for when we post more videos like these. If you're curious about any of the products that I use in real life in my garden, they are all linked down below in my Amazon storefront in the video description. So expand the video description, click on the Amazon storefront link, and you'll see everything in there that I use in real life. While you're there, check out my Spreadshop link for custom merch if you want to support the channel. And of course, if you have any questions about persimmons, ask them in the comments below and I will do my best to answer them. Thank you all again so much for watching, and I hope to see all of you again on the next video. Perfect timing, it just started raining.
There's a good boy, Dale. It is raining pretty good. I'm following him around with the umbrella so I can keep him nice and dry while he goes potty. The things we do for our boys. The things we do for our boys. Isn't it nice that it's finally raining out, Mr. Candy Inspector? We haven't had rain all month. This is a nice change of pace. Come on, buddy. Now is not the time to go sniffing around everywhere. We got to go back inside. It's raining. Come on, bud. Let's go inside.